Okay, good morning or good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's my evening, but I'm going to be talking with someone today who is on the east coast of the US, so we're talking across continents. And today we're talking about how to infuse your own unique personality into your website copy. And I'll be talking with Tracie from Okapi, and I'll be letting her introduce herself because I always think it's more interesting to hear people talk about themselves because they always know the most. But I'll just wait a couple minutes for her to get on here. And I'm doing this series because I think it's really useful to talk with other creative people and sort of share the gifts that we each come to the table with. And I'm going to be doing a series of these talks. I already did one so far with Toby, who is a digital creator. And I'm looking forward to this one with Tracie. And if you have any thoughts about other people that I should interview or have come on to share a little bit of their knowledge, just let me know in a comment or send me a DM. I don't know why this is so dark. Anyway, oh well, I don't really need to see myself that well, but hopefully you can see and hear me. So yeah, we'll be talking about how to infuse your own unique personality into your website copy. And I'll be sharing, actually, let me see if I can do that right now. We're going to be actually critiquing one of my sales pages, in essence, from my website. This one is for my community building service, which is helping my clients with outreach to their people. So that could be in Facebook groups, keeping a conversation going in Facebook groups, doing engagement on Instagram, even sending emails on behalf of my clients. So that's what I call community building. And let me just post this. If you want to follow along today, I'm going to post a link to the page that we're going to be critiquing. I think that'll make it easier to sort of understand what's going on, what we're talking about. Let me see if I can invite Tracie on here. Let me try to remember how. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Whoa.
Hi, Tracie.
Hey, Willow.
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I realized it
Okay.
my face really.
I know. And it's going to be even more cropped later, so it'll be like this much of your face later.
Well, the eyes, that's the good part of me. So cool.
Thanks for agreeing to do this today, Tracie.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk to you a little bit. I kind of already talked about like what we're doing today, but I'd love to just give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about what you do, who you are, and how you do it.
So I'm Tracie, and I am a copy coach and a sometimes copywriter and an editor. And what I specialize in is helping coaches and creatives create personality-packed content that connects better and converts more. And I do that really through a lot of editing, helping people infuse personality into their content.
Yeah, that's, and when I look at your website, I definitely see that, like your personality oozing, seeping out in a good way. um,
Always a good way.
because oozing sounded like a little bit negative for a second, but I didn't mean that. I really like looking at your website for inspiration, and I was just kind of looking it over one more time just to remember why I liked it so much before we talked. And
Going to note, I
yeah,
like it.
what's that?
Just making a joke about going in on a positive note.
Um, so I think this is something that you do really well and that you're really well equipped to help other people with, which is infusing personality, like your own unique personality into your writings. And I think it's something that a lot of us struggle with. Like, I think it's a little bit complicated to find the balance between making it about you and who you are as a person and then not feeling like you might lose the interest of the people that you're trying to talk to because I don't know, like you're talking about yourself too much. So
Right.
I wonder if you have any thoughts about that before we
Yeah.
start talking about that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind, specifically when we're talking about making sure that the reader sees them in it, and it's not like me, when you're trying to infuse your personality, is to just always go back and look at how many times do I use the word you? How many times do I use the word I or me? You should be like one of the most used words in your copy and your content, because that way you're speaking to your reader. And even though you might start kind of working in stuff that you like or that feels like you, it's not like you're sitting there going, I like cats. It's like you're kind of working that in a mixed way. So it's more about showing things that you're interested in and like weaving them in through like naming conventions or puns or metaphors and stuff. I think before we got on here and we chatted about your sales page a little bit, it's like those asides that you make. So it's just making sure that the focus is always you, but looking for opportunities to weave in you, the person behind the copy.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this has something to do with it or not, but I'm an introvert, and so I always sort of struggle with like how much of myself to share in
Mm.
I don't know, in my business, like I want to share parts about myself, but then sometimes I just feel like I come across as just this really serious like person and I'm not, I love to joke, but I feel like that doesn't come across in my writing sometimes and I wish I could get that humor across that you are really good at bringing into your writing.
So I'm a total introvert as well. And what I find, and I have like a very like solid line that I won't cross it. Like I'm not going to talk about this. Like you don't need to know this, right? So I think first of all, it's kind of being clear about what your audience actually needs to know about you in order to connect with you as a person or a service provider. But then I think it's also, like you do such a good job on Instagram kind of talking about the things that you like. And I get such a good sense of your personality. I mean, when I was on your page, like waiting to go live here, like you have a highlight about cats. And I'm like, yes, this is part of who you are, right? So the more that like, and I mean it's silly, right? But like we kind of bonded over our cats. So that's something that you can talk about more. That doesn't feel like it's something like that you hold super close to your heart. You know what I mean? You do. They're cats, like you love them, but it's not like something that's like, oh, no one needs to know how much I love these cats, right?
Yeah, although they really knew. They might be false. No, no, but that's a good point. I think what you're saying is to sort of define clear boundaries about like what is important to share and what you just don't want to share as a
Yep.
business owner. And as a like a solo business owner, we share a lot more about ourselves. It's just kind of
Mhm.
like part of that process. So I think it's maybe I need to define some specific, areas where I just don't want to go. It sounds like you have those well defined.
Very, very well defined. I'm actually a pretty private person, which is a shock to a lot of people that when I talk to them, they're like, oh, really? Like, I didn't know that. And it's just because I've picked, like you said, these things that I'm willing to share and these things that I'm not willing to share. And the things that I'm willing to share, they're often like really lighthearted, fun things. And so that
Yeah,
really helps, kind of create that boundary and help you stick to it while showing your personality.
yeah. I like that idea. Um, so I think in the comments, I already shared something. I thought that I probably didn't pin it though, but I shared the link to my sales page that we're going to be critiquing today, and I'll try not to cry too much, but that might make for like interesting TV. Um, we want
You'll
to entertain.
I'll be laughing. It's all good.
Perfect. So what we're going to do today, what Tracie has graciously agreed to do with me today, is to sort of go through one of my, in essence, like one of my sales pages. It's where I talk about my community building service, which right off the bat, Tracie was like, "What is that?" And I think that's important to talk about. So maybe let's start critiquing and talking about some of the things that you noticed when you were looking through my sales page. Does that sound
Yes.
good?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm ready. All right.
Okay.
So, um, let's take it from the top. Like you said, your page is community building. That's what it says right at the top. And the first thing that I think of is, do your people know what community building is? Are they coming to you saying, Willow, I need help with my community building? Like, are those the words that they're using?
No.
Yeah.
I find that people say the word engagement more.
Okay. So it would be, so you could, a really quick fix for that would be to work that word engagement in there, because if they see it and that's the word that they're using, they're much more likely to resonate with that. If, even if you just like straight up swapped community building for engagement, they would be like, ah, engagement. I know what that means. Let me keep reading.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing is, I will be gentle, as
No,
promised. No, no. So, engagement, it's still pretty straightforward, right? Like there's, I know what it means, so maybe I'll keep reading, but I'm not like, oh, engagement. Oh my gosh, yes, please tell me more about this, right? So if you can work in a little bit like the benefit or result for them, like engagement is kind of a result, but like, what's the real result? Like, what are they coming to you looking for out of their engagement?
yeah. See, that's the thing about using the word engagement, like switching out the word engagement. It feels a little bit like I feel like it's the meaning has become almost a bit, I don't know, like cold just because it's sort of something you do to get your needs met on social
Yeah,
media. And
yeah.
that's what I liked about the word community because it's kind of like what I want to bring to my clients, which is like this really sort of warm and heartfelt kind of service where it sounds like, if I'm speaking on their behalf, I'm using their language and I'm giving their people a warm and nice feeling.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think you can totally, like, the way that you explain it, I get like, I'm like, ooh, like, you know what I mean? So I think what might be beneficial for you is just like kind of talking about it a little bit, like out loud, or, like free writing or whatever, and kind of see what comes out, because you have a really clear idea of what it is. But I think if you kind of just like dig in a little bit deeper, you might land on something that feels a little more compelling for your people.
Okay. Yeah,
Because like,
good
what you
point.
said is super compelling. It's just translating that to the page.
Yeah. And I like what you say about I don't know, having really good titles or headlines on the page. I think that, my maybe my headlines could be more compelling because there's nothing really more than just a really simple title to the page. It just says
Right.
community building.
Yeah. I think headlines are such a great opportunity to show personality as well. So kind of like using that to infuse who you are into it. But also like we have to remember that the headline is it's like the first thing that people see, right? And we need to use it to catch their attention. So the more like, I don't even know what the stat is, like our attention spans are like continuously like dropping, right? And I think it used to be like 8 seconds before people are like, no, I'm out. But so you have that much time to catch their attention. So your headline needs to work a little bit harder for you.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
I'll keep going because I know you're
Okay.
having fun.
I know, I'm just kind of looking at it. No, I am having fun, and I just want to leave it up to you unless, I'm sure I'll have some burning questions here and there, but I'll just let you go at your own speed.
All right. I'm moving on. So the next section is we have these we have these bullet points. It's kind of like, are you doing this? So I think that I love bullet points. I use bullet points all the time. I think that bullet points are best used when you're doing like a short thing, like this, like results, or like really quick pain points. Like, to me, this would be more impactful if you could turn it into a narrative. And I think the more that you can tell a narrative, tell a story, like there's a bigger opportunity to work in personality there as well. So it's, again, like using your words, using your client's words, and I think too, there's a great opportunity because, you later on in the page, you talk about, you've been running your photography business since 2009. And so, all of these problems, right? So it's a great way to kind of mine your experience and kind of pull that out on the page, and not necessarily use your word for word experience, but use it to like inform like the story that you're telling. Like, how were you feeling? Like, what was happening? Those sorts of things. Because looking at it now, it makes sense, right? But is it something that's like super compelling to your audience? Is it something that they're saying, Willow, like, I'm continuously reinventing the wheel instead of putting a systematic communication strategy in place? Like, are they coming to you saying that? Like, they know what it means, right? But it's probably not like super exciting to them to like think about it that way. So just kind of, using different words, using the words your clients are using, that really helps there. I think too, the other thing is making sure that you're really hitting on the benefits. So I think, when I read it, I totally get what you're saying. Like, you save them time, right? Which is a huge thing, but we don't really come right out and say it. Like, we're just kind of like dancing around it. We're like, oh, I can save you time, but not being like, this is going to save you time. Like, this is why it's, so you do that later on in the page. But I think the more that you can like work it in from the beginning, the more you're going to hook people and catch their attention.
I have a question about that, just because I don't know if it's just that I spend a lot of time, looking at other people's websites and stuff, where like within my industry, like I feel like a lot of us are saying the same thing, like we save you so much time, and I get bored of it. Like, so I just wonder if it's like, if that's compelling enough to people because they've heard it all before, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Like, I feel like nothing is brand new anymore, right? And people are always looking for the same things. They're always looking to save time. They're always looking to save money. They're always looking to like feel better about themselves. So there's these inherent things, values that we all have as people, and we don't get tired of hearing it because we're like, yeah, I always want to save time. I want to do this faster. I want to do this better. So it's being okay with like reinventing the benefit wheel. But and what I'm hearing you say is that like, you don't want to just say, I'm going to save you time. Like, how can you say that differently? How can you say like, I'm going to save you time, but here's how Willow would actually say, I'm going to save you time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I also want to tell them how to spend their extra time. I know that sounds kind of bossy, but um, like one
No.
of my missions for my business is to give people that extra time so that they can have time for like a creative practice. Because I think
Hmm.
that really helps people, become more, I don't know, it just helps you like with every other aspect of your business if you can give yourself time for creative practice that's outside of what you do for work.
Right.
And then I also want to give people time, like, so that they can have, like, what's the word I'm looking? I want them to have time to really plan for the future of their business because I feel like a
Hmm.
lot of small business owners like us just don't make time or have time for that. So I don't know. I wonder if those would be like two of the benefits that I could speak to.
Yeah, for sure. You do it later on, right?
Okay.
So it's kind of taking those ideas that it feels like right now are kind of like tucked down on the copy where like maybe they'll see them and like bringing them and scattering them throughout the page. And
Okay.
it's not, hey, let's save time. It's let's give you the space to work on your creative projects, like kind of hitting it from that angle. It's still the same benefit, but in a different way. Kind of taking it one step further, right? Because like you said, you want to save them time so that they can do these things. So that extra step is really important and will
Okay.
make it cool. All right. The next set of bullet points, same dealio here, basically. So I won't spend a ton of time repeating what I said, but again, just making sure that these are the words that your clients are using and how they're saying it, like um, kind of trying to tap into, and I know that you know this, right? So I think this is where the kind of talking it out or free writing will be really helpful. Like, what is making them come to you and say, I need help communicating with my client? Like, what is that like push that gets them there? Um, and if you can turn that into a narrative as well, that's really helpful. And again, you say here, the last bullet point is like freeing up your time so you can fill orders. Again, awesome. Like we have a really clear benefit. How can we make that and like explode it and like really, really focus on, you know, you do say, or plan for the future of your business. Like we want to make sure that like we're hitting that like throughout the copy because that is a huge benefit for your people.
Mm, good point.
I also saw that in one of these bullet points here you said something, I forget, I'm looking at it and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was oh, you said engaging on Instagram and Facebook to keep the conversation flowing with your audience. And I thought that that was a really great thing that you could build on maybe for the headline of your page, right? Because it talks about
Mhm.
like that's what you do, right? Like you keep the conversation flowing.
Yeah,
So that could
I
be a
like that.
headline. Um, because it also kind of hits on the, like right now, not to like circle back to the headline, but because like I stumbled upon this like good idea here, like right now it's very like straightforward, like community building. But
Right.
keep the conversation with your audience flowing. That's like kind of like showing them a little bit more. And it's a benefit, right? So like they can
Right.
immediately, oh, awesome. Like I know what's going to happen when I work with Willow.
And it's a lot nicer than like engagement. It sounds less like like a robot.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing I think is the more that you can make it feel like a conversation with them instead of that robot like barking at them, like the better it will be. And I think it's just small things like that, right? That really kind of make it way better.
Mm, okay. Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for that tip.
Um, I think, at the beginning we talked a little bit about using you more than I or me or my. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think down here, it says my community building services include like I mean, that's probably fine, but the more that we can focus on them, the better. You could just like really simply just say like ready to build your community or something like that, so that it's more about them.
Yeah.
Simple, simple things, but you know, they do make a difference. Um, the other thing too is I think let's talk as a button is great. And I think that buttons like this and anywhere that you have a call to action are a really great place to start infusing a little bit more personality, like having some fun with it.
Hmm.
You know, we should talk, you know, like let's arrange a heart to heart, you know, things like that, that like, you know, are just kind of a little extra like willow touch, maybe, you know, something that you would say that they would respond well to, maybe. And I think just to kind of clear up like a little bit, like I hear a lot of people say, but I'm not funny, or, you know, like I don't have any jokes to make. And it's not about being funny or making jokes. It's just it's just about being yourself and letting that
Yeah.
come through. I think that's kind of something that holds people back. And I mean, nothing that we've talked about has been like a stand-up comic routine, right? Like it's just making it feel like a real person.
And when you infuse that kind of language into the buttons, do you use different language in each button that's on a page?
I It depends, honestly. Like, I think on a page like this where the call to action is really the same thing every time, like you want them to reach out, I would use the same button. Sometimes when you have like a longer page, it can be nice to switch back and forth between a couple, um, especially if you have like something that you can play off of in the text that makes the button a little more, you know, quote unquote fun. Um,
Yeah.
that that's a good thing to try as well. I think making every button different is confusing for people because they're going to be like, wait, what am I supposed to do? Even if the call to action is actually the same thing. But if you're like, you know, book a time on my calendar, call me now, let's chat, you know, like wait, what? Like, so just kind of always keeping in mind like what the end goal is, and, you know, making sure that you're not giving people too many choices, even if it's actually the same choice.
Okay, that makes sense.
Cool. Um, So our next section is this I bring to the table section. And I think in here, the one thing that I really wanted to touch on was that you have this little aside in the last bullet point. You say, Uber commitment to my client's success. It makes me feel successful by extension. And I thought that was so good. Like, it's the first time really that I saw you on the page. And I want to bring that out more. Like, and the way that you did it is such a good way to do it, right? Because you're still saying an Uber commitment to my client success, but you're adding on something at the back is not really necessary to have there, but it's an extra touch that kind of infuses you into the copy. So it's not taking anything away from what you're saying, your message, your client. It's just kind of a little extra.
Yeah, and I thought that was an interesting comment that that was the first time that you saw me in in the copy because I was like, oh no, like I should probably be in there a little bit earlier on, you know. I mean,
Mhm.
I think that's a really useful note because well, yeah, it's good to know like that that type of aside would help, you know, infuse who I am into the copy, but also that maybe I should be thinking about how to do more of that like up higher on the page.
For sure. It's you know, a really helpful way to kind of break down that, you know, the fourth wall, so it's like you're actually kind of like talking to the audience and giving them a glimpse into like your mind and how you think and like what you're thinking. So it's just kind of a little bit extra like connection with them and an opportunity to like put yourself on the page more.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. um so I think that towards the bottom here, we have these like, I bring to the table, why is this work important to me? Work with me. I think that in these sections, there's really good stuff, right? But I wonder if we're spending a bit too much time talking about you or making it I forward, right? Like, how can we spend more time focusing on the clients? Maybe it's just reworking this so that it is like, you need this, you want this, like that sort of idea. Or like kind of just combining these sections so that it's one section about you and like why this is important to you, why you do it. Because I think in reading this why is this important to me section, you say, I love supporting small business owners and creatives in the meaningful work they're doing. And I felt like that is such an important part of what you do. And I think, you kind of like talk about it a little bit, but I think if you dig deeper into that, like, why do you only work with businesses and brands you believe in? Like, what kinds of businesses are those? Like, it's really, really important, like kind of like asking yourself those questions. And again, whether that's like free writing, thinking in your head, whatever it is, like that will help you pull that out. I think that getting clear on that and like working that in more is going to help put more Willow on the page.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think, that's kind of one of the things that separates you as well, right? Like this is like, you talk about like communicating with their audience, like lovingly and respectfully, and like, like they have a mission. So just kind of making sure that that's super clear throughout, and, just working in like why it's important to you in a make sense way.
Yeah. That's what the hard part in a make sense way. But I'll try.
Yeah, yes, it's I think one of the great things you could do, I don't even know what that was. But like in the first section, where you're kind of like, the pain points, like, are you struggling with this? Like, you could identify them like right away, like you're a heart-centered business with a big mission, and, like you don't feel good using, icky language with your clients. Like you wish you had like kind words, kind of like those sorts of things to like identify, but also like be like, this is important to me. This is who I work with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Cool. Awesome. Oh, one more thing in this, like, these sections here. Again, we talked about this. You say like, enjoy a happier, more fulfilled life. That's like the big benefit, right? Like one of the things that we talked about is you want to give them more time to enjoy their life, to do their creative stuff. So just, again, harping on the idea of not losing that big benefit, making sure that that's super clear, like working that in more. I think there's a couple things towards the bottom of the page, that you could like put in the FAQs, like you explain smaller projects.
Yeah.
There was another one. Oh, the technology you use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's that necessary. I guess I was kind of trying to break up the page a bit, but I mean, I don't know. I guess there's people in this online world where they're really into like the tools, and they're like, "Do you use Asana?" Because I only use Asana, but a lot of people don't even care about that stuff. So I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily like every person that I'm going to work with is really looking for someone who uses this tool, this tool. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe it could be in the FAQ, right?
Yeah, for sure. And because I think if someone is that person who's like, you know how to use this because I don't use anything else, like they'll be looking in the FAQs, see how to use it, right?
Okay.
So I think if it's not a make or break for most of your clients, then I wouldn't focus so much on it here. But for the people that want to know, like,
Right.
yeah, put that down here, FAQs.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of my clients come to me not really knowing a lot about tools, and because that's not really their area of expertise. Like they're really into the sort of day-to-day stuff of their business, and they
Yeah,
don't even have time to research that stuff. So that's where I come in, where I'm like, oh, you need this tool.
right.
So I mean, there are the handful of people that are like, I don't know, in the coaching world or whatever, and they're like, they have their tools, and I don't know.
Mhm.
But a lot of people come to me not like that.
I think that's something that you could work in as well, probably into the same FAQ, is that like if they don't know which tools are best or whatever, you'll recommend them because you're familiar with
Uh,
tools, like
yeah,
you know, for their business and help save them time.
yeah, that's a good point.
Um, the other thing about the FAQs is that I find they're a really good place to show off your personality because not everyone's reading them. And it's not, yes, it's on the same page, but it's not, it's kind of like a separate piece of the page, right? So it can feel scary to kind of have fun with your sales copy, but the FAQs are a little bit different, right? They're kind of, they can be an informal place, and they're a lot of the times, they're collapsible, so people aren't seeing the copy right away. Like they have to want to know the answer to click on it, right?
Right.
So I think if you're nervous about like infusing personality, the FAQs are a great place to start and like try some things out and get comfortable with it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Cool.
You can hide
Um,
all your F-bombs in the FAQs.
yes, yes. I'm here for that.
I know you are.
The, the the last thing on the page that I wanted to talk about was the the section about, who am I and how can I help you? I think there's really good stuff in here, again, where I get to know you as a person, and like there's opportunities to work in some of this stuff throughout. Like again, you talk about how you're a world traveler, so that means you have a command of the English language, right? Like, or however that would work in there. You love foreign cultures, so you could talk about how you're respectful of all the cultures and you totally get expat life, right? So it's again, like we talked about, you've been running your own photography business, so you understand like the challenges of trying to do everything and still have time for all of this other stuff on the side. So, you know, maybe it's in your bio, but I think it's also an opportunity to work in that stuff because it talks about like who Willow is as a person, but also like the benefits of who you are as a person to the work that you do, because you bring something special based on your background, right? So the more that you can kind of, I know that like we've said this a million times, but like infuse that, like the more people will resonate with it and make the connections and, connect with you.
Do you mean like not sort of, um, I don't know, separating it into that one area, but sort of adding it to other parts of the copy from the beginning? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
I think is, you do talk about earlier somewhere, where is it? That you have it like some, in the I bring to the table bullet points, you say my command of English grows from a love of language. So it's kind of, you already talk about it, so it's kind of combining these things, like squishing them together to, like, why do you have a command of the English language? Like, why is this important to you? Like, how does it benefit me? So I think that you can work it in to the rest of your copy and also have like your little bio, but making sure that your bio also is kind of results and benefits focused as well. It's not like, not that yours is,
Yeah.
but like it's not a dating profile, right? like we
Yeah.
don't we know like what your favorite kind of coffee is. Like, I mean, you can do that if you want, but like people want to know like who you are, like what kind of results do you get, like why should they work with you? So kind of keeping that in mind for the bio, like on its own.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Needs more benefits.
Mhm. Yes. And two, like, the thing that jumped out at me also about this who am I section is that you've tucked quite a few benefits in here that we don't talk about really anywhere else, like more leads, more clients, focus on big picture goals, like, so you have all of it. It just needs to be like let loose on the rest of the copy.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
It's hiding in there.
Mm-hmm. It is. We want to like free it.
Okay.
So that's my takedown.
It
It wasn't,
wasn't,
yeah.
wasn't like that.
No. See, it's fine.
But actually, it's really useful because um, now that you've done this one page, I'm like, okay, I'll probably have to do all three of my. I have like three separate sales pages, and the way that they work is pretty similar. Although like one of my pages is all FAQs, like the whole page. But I think I think this gives me a lot to work with, especially about like how to talk about yourself, but make it about the reader, because I
Yeah.
think that's always tough to figure out. And I think what you're saying is it needs to be very like benefits focused to let the people know why, they care about you, sure, but they care about you because you're going to do some really good work for them, and you need to sort of
Right.
let them
Yeah.
know how that, like, what they get out of this situation, this
Exactly.
relationship.
Especially if we're looking at a sales page or work with me page or something like that, they're coming there because they want to know if they should hire you, like why they should work with you. Like, I think it's fine if you're on like social media or even your about page to do more of that. Like, this is who I am. Like, that's okay. It doesn't not belong anywhere in your copy or on your website. But I think trying to keep your sales copy as focused on the benefits and results as possible makes it that much more compelling for anyone reading it.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so I guess if anyone is watching right now who has a question for Tracie, we're talking about like how to infuse your own unique personality into your website copy. And if you have any questions for Tracie that sort of came out of what we were talking about today, feel free to type something in at the bottom. Um, I guess, well, is there anything else you wanted to say about me, about my page before I sort of switch gears?
I think the only thing that I didn't really talk about a little bit was, well, two things that we talked about, but I didn't clearly say, like, jargon is like a sales page
Mhm.
killer. So, we kind of talked a little bit about, what your clients say, community building. That
Mhm.
could be considered jargon. So the less of that kind of language you use, the better. And if you're not sure, just kind of always ask yourself, is this something that my clients would say? Like, do my clients know what this means? So that can really quickly help you, shake off the jargon. Um, and then one really, really quick thing that you can do to immediately like make any of your copy or your content sound more casual and conversational is to use contractions. It's like, it's really simple and it's so easy to overlook, but I always like to kind of approach writing as like, how would I say this in real life? Like, would I talk like this? And I use contractions all the time, right? And I think most people do. So that's just a really, really, really quick and simple way to kind of tone it down and make it a little bit more relaxed and casual.
Yeah, it's funny that we don't do that a lot of times, or I guess, there's more opportunities to put more contractions into our writing,
Yep.
even informal writing like this.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's some sort of like holdover, from like grade school or whatever. Like, you
Yeah.
know, what this is, but I think for some reasons a lot of it gets stuck on not using them.
I always write my sales pages in cursive first, and then just kidding. But yeah, okay. Well, sorry.
I wide ruled or college ruled with your cursive.
I forget how, but actually, I think I could still do it. I'm lying. I know how to do my cursive still, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to that. That's first on my list, other than all the other like 1 million things that are on my list for
Cursive,
building my
very
business.
skill.
Um, so I guess we've been talking for a long time, so I don't want to take up all your time. I think I told you this was going to be like 20 minutes, so obviously I have no sense of time. But I found it really useful. And
I
I'm
looked at the clock and I was like, oh, it's like quarter to 10 my time.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done this format before, like of actually critiquing something live, but I think it's really interesting and to go through all the details and hopefully it'll be useful for people that are watching now and the people that watch the replay. And then I'm planning to actually do a blog post about it too. I think it'll be interesting to sort of see like what the page looked like before and then some of your suggestions. I
Yes.
guess before we get off of here, I'd love to sort of just hear a little bit about like how people can work with you if they're interested in working with you.
Yeah, so there's a few different ways you can work with me. I do what Will and I just went through here. I offer a service called Snap Crackle Pop Sales Pages that basically is this in slightly more in-depth format. So I review sales page copy and help you infuse more personality and kind of make it pop off the page. So that's one thing. I also offer monthly editing packages. So for people who like to write their own copy, but you know, kind of just want an extra set of eyes on it to make sure that it's clear and compelling, I do that as well. And you know, they can check out all those links are in my bio. So they're more than welcome to peek in there and see what's on offer.
Yeah, and if you want to taste of sort of who Tracie is and what she's about and what she blogs about, you can also check out her Instagram if you haven't already. And I feel like I've learned a lot about you through, you know, following you on Instagram and then heading over to your blog because you write such compelling, like, you know, captions about your blog. Sometimes it just forces me to go over there and look at the blog. I always feel too busy to read blogs, but um, I usually get I don't know pulled into looking over at your blog. So that should I hope that makes you feel good because
That's, I mean,
I like to say that I don't have time to read blogs.
yes, except for the fact that you use the word force, but you know, that's fine. I mean, I'll take it.
It might just be because I'm getting tired and I can't think of better vocabulary. But yeah, no, I think it's there's something like really compelling about what you usually what you say about your blogs, and so it always like the things that you're writing about are interesting to me, and they're interesting enough for me to go over there and read the blog. And I really like the series you did about like the F word and you know whether or not to use the word fuck in your copy. And I thought it was just like a fascinating conversation, and I hope you do more. About those kind of issues because I think it's I don't know it's just really interesting for the time that we're in like how strong people's feelings are about that word and other like curse words.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know that I can like go on about that. So I, I'll keep myself, but I feel like with all of the things that like I talk about or you talk about, like you have to, for this person consuming it, like you have to like honestly look at yourself and be like, is that something that feels like me? Is that something that like I really want to do? And if it is, great. If it's not, then don't do it. Like that goes for everything, right? So I think that's, you know, when we're talking about cursing or, you know, infusing your personality, like it comes down to what you want to do and what feels good to you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to end this because That's always, yeah, because I just think like that's always my advice to my clients when they're making a decision about like content creation or I don't know, like what to talk about in their emails or how often to send their emails. I always want them to sort of go back to like how does it make them feel? Like how, do they like receiving 3 emails in a week or do they hate it? And then sort of go from that place of like checking in with yourself.
Yes.
So I like that you say that because I think infusing your own personality should be sort of a hard decision, right? Like something from inside you. So yeah,
Yep.
that's a good point. Well,
I felt
thanks
like,
so much, Tracie.
thank
I
you so
really
much.
appreciate you doing this with me.
Yeah, this was awesome.
And all right, awkward goodbye.
All right. Well, see you around. We'll talk about cats a little bit more.
Okay, okay, thanks so much. I see you around Instagram. Bye bye.
Yeah.